the better leader or better in your own profession you become, the more wiser you become with that you understand that it can be okay now, and hopefully it will be okay at some times, but there is always problems. And if we think of the creative profession, like artists, for example, they challenge themselves every day because they have to work with themselves, and they don't have any right answers, and they might be in doubt the whole day at the studio. They might be like, I did nothing came out like this. It was part of the process.
Good morning, Laura.
Hey, good morning.
It's great to meet you.
Yeah. Okay, now it's good. Yeah, okay. Great to meet you too, and thank you for inviting me to this podcast.
It's a great pleasure. I'm so glad that Anna Maslin told me about you and connected me with you. Great work that you're doing, and I read your bio, and so interesting. You've done quite a lot in the creative field.
Yeah, I've done practically more than one person usually does during one lifetime, but I've tried it all. So,
but it started. Where did it start for you as a child? Did you were you already pursuing some art form, or were you interested in forms of art?
Well, it started. I'm from a home where my mom was a secretary and my dad was working in technical, as a welder. So they had nothing to do with the arts. But we had a nanny when I was young, and she was really into art. And she was very young at the time when she was taking care of me and my big sister. And she took us to, she crafted things with us. And of course, my mom did too, and my grandmother did too. But then somehow, when she got into an art academy in Stockholm, and she kind of left us because she ended her job as our nanny. I mean, she was taking care of us every now and then. And I was quite young when she left. I got very interested in sort of like how could someone be working as a professional artist. And when she moved to Stockholm, to another city and country, it felt a bit bizarre because I didn't know about art academies or anything like this when I was young. Of course, I had seen art at the art museum. I mean, I'm from the west coast of Finland, and we have the first contemporary art museum in Finland there in Pori. So that place became quite familiar for me because I went there to work afterwards. But yeah, I have been a creative child, but I have never had one specific drawing or painting, or I have played piano, I have drawn, I have painted, I have been in a theater group. So I have done many different, I have danced, I have done many different things, but there has never been one specific hobby or something passion. So
yeah, you were obviously drawn to it, and wanting to do and explore different things.
Yeah, I guess so. And then also, I have been thinking about it a lot afterwards, now when I have worked with artists a lot, that it's very strange that already since my childhood, I knew that I don't want to be an artist. Because really? I always thought that it would be so difficult because I would have to create the ideas myself. I should be so creative, and I should be so patient with myself and only with my own thoughts. And now as an entrepreneur, I am quite alone at times, but then, and I do create things, of course, and I have created things as an art curator, for example, but then it's strange. I don't know how I had that thought already since like very early age that I will never want to be an artist, like as such.
Yeah. But I think because Anna and I spoke about this as well, that actually business is a form of art. So as an entrepreneur, you are already creative, and also I don't think we see it as a form of art as conventional art, but more of the creative thinking process.
Yeah, definitely. And also, like, for example, I have a background from like working in institutions like art museums where your creativity is kind of like sort of like conceptualized through the work that you do. So it's still creative work, but there is like a structure that you follow.
Yeah.
Like all the, like when you make publications, there's a specific process. You need a documentation, research, writers, translators, graphic designers. It's like the whole sort of like project management deal. And then when you make an exhibition, there's the same thing, that you need technicians, you need the artist, you need the art, you need the space, the technical things have to be perfect. Everything is sort of like conducted by the curator, and there's a specific process in it. But when you are a business person as an entrepreneur, there is no structure as such. So you can do whatever you want, and you can kind of like leave out those parts of the process that don't serve you anymore, that are not necessary, or that don't fit with your like business or the process that you want to make. And I don't know. Maybe when I was working as a freelance curator, when I was doing conceptualizing exhibitions for institutions and art museums, and I had open hands, like I could make proposals and then offer them to institutions. That was very creative because I was kind of like selecting works and selecting people I want to work with, and I could see working together well and all this. But then, it's really interesting because creativity, I don't think it's something that I mean, it would be old-fashioned to say that creativity is only for artists.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I agree with you, because I think it's different. There's so many different forms of creativity, that you cannot just pinpoint it to say, well, you've made a painting, so that makes you creative, or you improvise music or compose music. So no, I totally agree with you. I think we are all inherently creative in many different ways without us even realizing it, but I think of course some forms of creativity is just seen as more, say, advanced or more in as an art form, or art form.
Yeah, true.
But you also studied art history.
Yeah, I did my art history master's degree at the University of Jyväskylä here in Finland. And during my studies, I also studied art history in Norway for a year, which was interesting because it was in Norwegian. I don't know how I did it, but I did it. And it was interesting because studying art history on university level is very different than actually like working with living artists, for example.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, at least that time when I was studying there, I remember that during our studies we didn't meet artists that much, and we were studying art from books and like really, like reading about it, reading about the theory, like really focusing on the history of art rather than the future of art. And when I graduated, I had already worked in Pori Art Museum for quite a while when I graduated. And when I went to work in Pori already in my early 20s, at the art museum, I kind of like learned everything about working with artists, working with living artists. The first exhibition I curated there was with artists from art history, but then after that, practically every artist has been alive who I have worked with. So it's very different concept to study from books and work with living artists.
And you, if I think now what we talked about before, that you did all these different things and different, you played piano, you were in a theater group, you do different things. Was it for you not a bit restrictive to study art history, where you just had to study, where you didn't create or didn't sort of do different things? Or is it part of your character also to be able to focus on one thing?
I think it was, I have to say that I really enjoyed my studies. Like the times when I was a student was excellent. And it was pity that I was rushing into work life so fast.
Oh,
because
really?
It would have been a pleasure to be a student for a longer time. But then, I don't know, I was just in a hurry to graduate and go to work. And I was so lucky that I got a job also in the field of art. So, of course, I wanted to start it immediately when it was offered to me. But I don't know, maybe like I remember already during my study, like times when I studied, I was always mixing things. So I didn't study only art history. I was studying Scandinavian languages, art pedagogy. When I was in Norway, I studied geography, so we could do field trips, and I learned more about like the past of Norway and all that, and very different things. And then I haven't been like, maybe that's why I could never be a researcher, because I cannot focus on one specific thing at all, because so I'm not a good art historian, that I would never be able to study for years about one specific artist, for example. So it's kind of like this collective of things that I have in my mind. And it's interesting because I maybe it was also, now afterwards, when I have thought about it, it has been that I want to have a master's degree, and art history was the thing that I was most drawn into, because I didn't want to do anything, like I didn't want to paint, or I didn't want to do any art as such. But then like the combination of things, I don't know how it is nowadays in universities, that can you really mix studies from very different fields? It's pity if you cannot, but at least at that time, it was a possibility to take courses from different departments and sort of like study those things that you are most drawn into, that you find interesting. But yeah, it wasn't a challenge, but I have to say that I was very quick at the university. So because I already started to work when I was like 23. And yeah.
But from studying to working in an art gallery, for example, what can you see what you studied? You studied the history of art, and now going into the gallery, working with living artists. What can you see something specific that you needed from studying history of art to working with living artists now?
Of course, the sort of like the ability to understand the meaning of contemporary art and the art that the artists do at the current time that we live in, it's a huge like possibility to see how it kind of like relates to the past. So when I have this knowledge about art history, and I know what has happened like in the past and what kind of like movements and artists there are in the history, it's easier for me to see, like, for example, working in an art museum, it's easier for me to see how it would be meaningful for us to make this exhibition, what it would like, what kind of like story it would also tell from the past, and how it would sort of like continue that story from the history of art for the people today. So of course that was very important. And then also to understand, like, for example, like when you work, like practically when I work, like since I have worked, I have always been in a role where I have to write a lot. So when you work in an art institution, whether it's a gallery or an art museum, or you work, I don't know, even like a creative director or whatever, you always have to write a lot. So if you don't know the language of art, if you don't know the right words and all this sort of like tone of voice that you have to have when you write like to publications, or if you write articles or press release, it could be quite tricky because there is specific sort of like there's a specific way to write about art. It's not too commercial, it's not too everyday writing, but then it has to be approachable. And for example, through Finnish Art Agency, when I have done interviews with artists, I have also sometimes pushed the artist to tell more about their works through writing, and also I have asked them, like, how will they put themselves to the history of art? And it can be quite challenging for the artists themselves to put themselves to the map of art history. But then I think it's very important that the artist also understand art history, like how does their work reflect to the past, and what kind of overlapping issues or techniques or topics or themes have been already studied in the history of art. Because I see everything, I think it's like a river, that all art is part of art history, but then how that river, like all the artists are there, but then they have to know how they sort of like are part of it. So it has definitely been important for me to understand this. And of course, I pay huge respect towards artists because of this knowledge about like the struggles of the artists throughout the times and all this.
Yeah. But how important do you think it is for artists to talk to the public, for people who visit an art gallery to really understand, or that not always is so, with historical pieces where we don't have the artist there and we see interpretations, or we hear interpretations of the work. But now we have artists, living artists, that can speak and that can talk about their art. And then you have sometimes people that say, no, it's for the person who sees the art to interpret it. But what is your feeling about the importance of the artist speaking about what their intent was with their art?
Well, I think it's very important because we live in a time when stories and people are the things that we are most interested in. So, of course, there can be artists who don't want to tell anything about themselves or their past or the birth story of the work. But then at the same time, when the artist is more like true to themselves, and they are more open about their story. I mean, of course, they don't have to tell everything about their lives or every little secret from their past, but to be present and tell the story that they want to tell about their past. It doesn't mean that they have to explain everything about their work or explain everything about their practice. But if they tell more about how they make the works or how they see the world from their point of view, or what they think about at their studio when they're making the works, or what kind of things they find interesting as an artist. I think all those things are so valuable, because then people are, I mean, it's so much easier to relate to those artists then, and also to hear maybe from that point of view, different point of view of the world than what we see every day or hear every day or read from the news, because at least in Finland there is not so much stories about artists in the newspaper. And I think that's the reason why all institutions and everyone working with living artists, and also artists from the past, everyone has a responsibility to tell about the artist. Because I think it's important that I have worked with so many artists. I have been doing a mentoring program with artists, and I know that it's a challenge to work as a creative professional, because your self-esteem is always in doubt, and you are very critical towards yourself and towards your work. And then sometimes being in interaction with the audience is the best way to get good response, and to actually hear how people are reacting to your works. They might understand the work entirely different what you have thought at the studio, but then it doesn't matter, because at least they are touched by the work. And I think it's always I see it as my responsibility also from my own from my own practice to tell about the artist behind the works as well.
I had this one amazing opportunity to go into an artist's studio, and he was just finishing a work, and he explained to me what this was about. And I think it was in that moment where you're so close up to this painting, and then the artist explaining what was happening. I had goosebumps, and this was the first time in my life that I had goosebumps from a painting. From other things I get goosebumps, but from standing in front of this painting and seeing and hearing the story. So for me, it's wonderful that if somebody can tell, I agree with you, the story, the story behind. It doesn't necessarily have to be the in-depth, but just what are you looking at, and this was the intention.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I fully agree. And I think personally, I mean, I love different forms of contemporary art, but I think painting for myself is something that if I see a big painting in an exhibition, overwhelmingly big, the size is so big that you cannot see it at once, and you see all those brush strokes and colors and layers and all this. It's very overwhelming. How is it possible? Every time I see a work of art, I'm like, how is it possible? Whether it is big or small or whatever, it's the medium. I'm like, how is it possible that someone has created this?
I feel exactly the same. I think
it's really, it feels like it's amazing every time. And it's moving. I mean, I think this what you said, that when you went to the studio and you saw the painting being sort of like finalized by the artist right there in front of you. And when I have worked with many artists and creatives, and when you see that they are content with their own work, and then they say that this is it, like this is the final work, and this is the end result. This is what is going to the show. It feels almost like magical. Like, so
Exactly.
now this is now this person sees that this is the final piece, and yeah, it's really amazing. And especially like I worked in art museums and in exhibition projects for so long that sometimes even during the exhibition, like when we were making it, like the hanging of the exhibition and building it and all that, it could feel like, even for me, even not being the artist, it could feel a bit like overwhelming, like, can we really finalize this before the opening? Like, and of course I couldn't say anything like this in front of the artist, but kind of like, can we really make it? But then trusting the process and believing that we can do it and it will be amazing. And then some kind of like magic happens during that, like whether it's like building something or painting something on site, or like, I don't know, putting pieces together, and then all of a sudden, yeah, that's it. Now it's done. Yeah.
That last minute thing that comes together, and I think that's always the best.
Yeah. It's definitely the best. It's the moment when you are like, when you have to take the artist and take them outside from the gallery space so that they don't start and change works at the last minute, like because when they get a bit nervous about the exhibition.
But I spoke to a French artist once, and he said that he's done thousands of works, but because he's been painting since a child, he was a child prodigy, but he said he carries all his paintings on his shoulders. It's with him, all the paintings he does. And this is why I think it's so interesting talking to artists, and talking to them about what the inspiration was, or where did they start, or how do they see it. And I mean, this is part of why I do what I do as well with my interviews. And even composers, where do you start on that blank paper, and what was in your mind? I think it's so much that we can learn from. I see also with your company, Confidants, this is what you're saying. You're saying we can learn so much from creatives and learn so much from artists.
Yeah, definitely. That's why I started Confidants. I've been doing Finnish art agency for over 10 years. And actually Finnish art agency and working with artists was the starting point for Confidants, because I have been to so many artist studios. I have had creative clients from the field of music, acting, like different fields of creative practice. And I have worked as a coach and a mentor. And when I have been trusted with their story, I have been always thinking like, oh my God, this is the story that everyone should hear. Like, this is so important, like interesting, and the way people think about the world and how they see possibilities when many people would see only struggle. And I think creative people are so stubborn and so focused that they make amazing things. And sometimes they even don't know whether anyone is going to see them or not, or hear them or read them. And after being at artist studios, and I also worked as a lecturer of working life skills and personal growth at the University of the Arts for 3 years, while I was studying as a solution-focused coach. I worked with musicians at the Sibelius Academy then, and I was very amazed about the ability how the young musicians spoke about their practice, because I had not worked with musicians before that. And all those stories I heard from the teachers and the professors and the music students was so amazing to hear, like how they have been breathing music since childhood.
Yeah.
And it was amazing, because usually, like, contemporary artists, of course, many have maybe drawn or painted something in their youth. But when I worked with musicians, I was like, oh my God, it's in their DNA. It's in their system. They do music. It's like how they exist in this world. Of course, visual artists are the same, but it has a bit different way to be present.
I agree. Yeah.
And then a few years ago, I was like, I wanna separate myself from doing projects like exhibitions. I was doing exhibitions abroad quite a lot, and then I thought that I want to do something where the stories are more important than the actual products or projects or concerts or works. And that's how I made Confidants, and our companies organizing talks. I mean, they can be directors or leaders or movie makers or designers or artists. So creativity could be in different forms. It doesn't have to be an artist in the pool of speakers. But my aim is that more events and more boards would hear creative people, whether they are directors or whether they are artists, who would go and give them an inspiration talk or workshop about how to communicate or how to tell your story, or how to think differently about and maybe how to think more solution focused towards the future, rather than like focusing on the problems that we have. And it was like a combination. When I graduated as a solution focused coach, and then I had this creative practice, and then all of a sudden I was working as a coach for leaders and boards and teams and all this. And I was like, I have these two different worlds, and they are not so far apart.
Yeah.
Because I saw that when I have worked with creatives, the reasons that they have been worn out hasn't been the creative work itself. It has been lack of resources, changes in the family, maybe children, divorces, whatever, changing the city or something, or studies. It has been maybe lack of funding, something like very practical, but never the making of the art itself.
Yeah.
And then when I work with people from business or technology or design or something like this, the aim was the same, that they were very committed. Like, let's say there's a director who has been very committed with their own business, and it has the same sort of like elements as the creative work, but they are stuck with their thoughts. They're stuck with the situation. And me as a coach, I try to help them to get some air for their brain and their thoughts, and maybe use some elements from the creative stubbornness and creativity itself. Like, how do you get out of these stuck situations? And this is kind of like how Confidants became, like, that's the background of Confidants. And now we have been doing workshops and inspiration talks and lectures and all this. And yeah.
But you talk about now the different aspects of what is almost like a blockage or a hindering, and for artists it's sometimes the business side, and I think for business people it's sometimes the creative side, or that, and this is why it's so important to learn from each other. And I spoke to a dean of a business school in Johannesburg once, and we talked about this aspect of why artists find business difficult, they can do their art form, and like say now, it's sometimes the external things that prevent them from continuing or progressing. And he said, very interesting, that business is also something that you, just like a musician has to practice the violin every day or regularly. It's the same with business. You have to do it regularly and not expect it to just instantly, everybody has to know about it. And now that you're talking, I'm thinking, yes, there's sometimes this thing where we can learn from also the time frame where musicians and artists are focused on one specific thing, whereas in life we want to continuing doing different things and expecting the same outcome as what artists are doing over time and in patience and in process.
Yeah, definitely. It's exactly what I think too, that maybe it's the time we live in, that people assume that once this problem is solved, everything will be fine. But I believe that there will be always another problem.
Yeah.
So the better leader or better in your own profession you become, the more wiser you become with that you understand that it can be okay now, and hopefully it will be okay at some times, but there is always problems. And if we think of the creative profession, like artists, for example, they challenge themselves every day because they have to work with themselves and they don't have any right answers, and they might be in doubt the whole day at the studio. They might be like, I did nothing came out like this. It was part of the process, but then like the sort of like the huge difference to business and administrative work, if we say in more boring way, is that that we assume that once we fix this thing, everything will be fine, and once we just do this and get rid of that person and make this new product and make this and this, everything will be fine. And then when things don't go well, we are burnout, we are exhausted, we don't believe in ourselves, and everything will collapse. And then we are trying to, like, we only see a dead end, and that's when the creativity stops. But when like, for example, when you understand that solving problems is everyday conflict, and you are at ease with that, it's fine. Like, it's okay to have conflicts. I mean, there's so many people who are afraid of conflicts. I've been doing a lecture about like conflict management as well, and it's crazy when I ask from the audience, like, how often do you have conflicts in your everyday work? And the audience being maybe team managers or team leaders and leaders. And some people say that I never have conflicts because I'm so good in my work. And I'm like, is it so? And then some people say that on every day I have so many conflicts. Is something wrong with me? No, you have conflicts because you are committed to your work and you are trying to find solutions. And you come out as a person who is trying to find answers to conflicts. Of course, it can be exhausting if you don't know how to manage it and you don't have resources in yourself. I'm not saying that people should look for conflicts, but sometimes, like, creativity comes when you have to find the solutions in a hard place.
Yeah.
And then you are not assuming, like you said, that when we do this and then everything will be fine. If you stop assuming that everything will be fine because you did it once and it worked, you have to let go of that. You have to start to think about yourself as sort of like more like I don't know, like a manager of your own emotions, and also like I think it's very important that people understand this difference between analytic thinking and empathic thinking. It's my favorite topic from neuroscience, because we in our brains we have different areas for analytic thinking and empathic thinking, and when we think with our analytic brain, with the part where we have the analytic thinking in our brain, it becomes alive. It's like in brain scanning, they can see that it's active when you think analytically, and when you think empathically, it's active. And when we meet people who are very analytic and you don't see any empathy in them, they still have their empathic brain. They still have it in their like physical brain. They have it, but they have been pushing it away, and they have sort of like maybe put it into a box in their mind. So it's not part of my work role. I don't want to be empathic at work, because I want to be professional and analytic. And when I see like very talented artists or very talented leaders, they are very at ease in being empathic and being analytic at the same time. That they are not afraid to say that something makes them feel sad, or something makes them feel insecure. But at the same time, they can see clearly what they should do in a difficult situation. And I think it's very, I mean, at least in Finland, many people think that we have to be like in this work mode. And if we are too sensitive or too emotional, it's not very professional. And when I think about the artists who are present, usually with their emotions, with their like good and bad feelings, that's why maybe sometimes people from the business world think that it's too much, it's too authentic, because in this business world we have to be so professional that I'm not saying that we have to be like a hot mess at work. I'm not saying that, but you know, like that, like authenticity is being present.
But isn't it also the language, the business language, that makes everybody sort of reacting in a different way? Because sometimes I hear that these words, these vocabulary, and the business talk, and it's almost as if it's
like robots talking.
And you think, just talk normal, just talk like every person, so that we understand what you mean. Because sometimes they say also these words, and you think, okay, but what does this actually mean? Because there's no real meaning behind it, except for the fact that the words are used. So I totally agree with you. It's almost as if just get real, like be in the moment, take the things on face value of what it is, and then and people also, the connection. But it's so interesting, because I've spoken to a few conductors where they say that youth orchestras, and this is what I also want to talk to you about, is the value of teaching art, or different forms of art, in schools, in the education system, where they talk about the youth orchestra as being so valuable, not just about the music, but about all the other skills that these children acquire in such a youth orchestra. And I'm thinking about a business as well, where we learn to work together, to collaborate, to listen to each other, to take, the empathy part, also take people into consideration, the one person sitting next to you, or, and and you think, isn't it so valuable that we have to start looking at the education system and saying, okay, how can we implement art so that it stands in value alongside science, maths, and the languages?
Yeah, it's very important question, because unfortunately there is less and less creative studies at school here as well. But I think having music, for example, as a hobby, where you play music in an orchestra, or where you in a theater play, where you have to collaborate with different kind of people, and you all have the same goal. You want to make a perfect music concert, or you want to make a play that is good. And when you all focused on the same goal, you have to put yourself aside a little bit. And that's really good, because you cannot be only thinking about yourself all the time. And the problem or the issue, for example, here, or this is only my own experience, but I have read about it in the news and studies. People are so lonely now that they lack this sense of community and sense of belonging. We have so many social platforms online, but it's not the same as going to a play together, to play in a play, or to be part of an orchestra, or draw together in the same drawing class. And I assume that the next movement there will be more like group activities for older people and adults and younger people as well. So I think we are going to the end of these social platforms eventually.
I do agree. I think so too.
Yeah. There's some like quiet signs about that already. There's a lot of like clay studios, for example, in Helsinki. All the clay groups are
here
fully
as well
booked.
in Vienna.
Yeah.
And knitting groups and crocheting groups and
yes,
so.
exactly. But I'm very worried, like, how do we get our youth to these kind of groups? How do we get our children to be part of a group where we let them be kids, let them be in a group? Us, and as adults, we can be in the background, we can be at home, and they can be in the group. Because also now it's very individual focused. It's very who you are, what do you want to be. But we are all part of society. We all have to get together, get along together. We have to create something together. We have to be part of the society, the teams, the companies, the organizations, neighborhoods, buildings, all this. So, yeah, I hope there would be more active, sort of like active desire from the parent side as well, and also from the organizers, that they would make these possibilities, like the cities would make possibilities for families to meet, for teens to meet, for children to meet, for adults to meet, because lack of community is the one thing that is tearing us apart, because it's so hard to say those nasty comments face to face, but then online you can be horrible. So
but you know, I believe in the power of one. If every person just make a change or do something valuable, there's a guy in South Africa. His name is Cuba the Storyteller, and he lives in a very rural part of South Africa. And he literally takes a shopping bag and he goes to schools in the rural area in South Africa, and he puts a little one-man play up for the children, for these children who have never been in a theater, who has never seen a play or anything. He does that. and he lets them sit in the school hall and he teaches them about the etiquette of theater. You know, they have to sit down, they have to wait till he's finished. He teaches them to when is it time to applaud. They're not supposed to get up, and he does this little story. And he gets, of course, people who sponsor him, that he goes out there, but it's amazing. I follow him, and it's amazing what he does on his own. I say on his own, you know, he's the organizer of all this, and he makes little musicals with the children and so on. And I think we should never underestimate the power of one, never underestimate what you as a person can do to make a difference in a community like that.
Yes, definitely. And you don't need a huge institution or building. You can start it yourself, and you can do it in your neighborhood, or do it in your building, or to your neighbors, with your neighbors' kids or whatever. I think it's I really love this idea that someone is teaching how to be in theater.
Yes,
because it's very important. I mean, I have 2 boys, and my younger son, their group from kindergarten, they went to the opera. I mean, it's big building, it's the National Opera here, but they went to see an opera play here. I think it was a practice that they could go and enter and see as a group, and it was one of the highlights of the year, because it was so, like, it made an impact. It made a change for them, and I was thinking that, I mean, I drag my kids to museums all the time, and it's, you don't need that huge institution to make an and it could be only that you, luckily we still have culture places where you can go for free, in Helsinki, for example, and also in the different cities. The libraries are for free. So there's like endless possibilities if you're just active and you do things.
Exactly.
And to think, like, when there is now new generations that are over consuming their mobile phones, they are on TikTok and Snapchat and Instagram and all this. They are like they are losing their own thinking when they are only like consuming TikTok videos about someone else creating something for them. And if everyone would think like, do I want to be the creator, or do I want to be the follower?
True.
I think world would be very different, because us numbing our own thoughts and emotions and our own creativity through this kind of platforms is horrible.
Exactly.
And it's so addictive. And if a child, let's say since 9 years old, starts to watch TikTok, and it becomes their routine, they cannot get up from the bed without that. Like, as horrible as that, what will be their future be like their life? How will they see like the whole world will be on that phone, and they are part of it. So I don't know, I feel quite sad when I think about it, but we have to be the change.
Exactly. Well, there was a mother in America somewhere in America, I can't remember where, she refused to give her children mobile phones. She got a landline, and she said, if somebody wants to call you, they'll have to call the landline. And if you want to call somebody, you call them from the landline. And the children were, of course, not very happy, because they were the only ones with the landline. But now there are a few groups of mothers who started doing that and refusing, because first of all, the child has to be there answering the phone and talking, and can't walk, in the streets with a mobile phone talking. So you have to be at home and answering the phone. If you're not there, then you're not there. And now apparently there's a few groups of parents who started doing that now, and they are supporting each other, that all the children rather use the landline than a mobile phone. And this is exactly this thing. It's one person needs to, make a change, or one person needs to say, okay, this is how I see it. This is how I'm going to do it, and people will follow.
And also, like, I mean, this is very radical to have a landline instead of cell phones.
Exactly, yeah.
But also, if you have the cell phones, what is balancing that? That it's not the main thing in your life, or it's not the main source of creativity or activities in your life. So, like, trying to find a balance between these mobile things and platforms, and then the world outside that.
Exactly.
Sports, music, theater, city activities, all this. So yeah, it's like finding this balance all the time in life. Like say in business and creativity, like finding that balance. I mean, you can be an artist and in your studio for the whole life, like separate yourself from the society, but then you miss the connection between exactly. you and the world. And all this.
Look, I think social media for me is wonderful for what I'm doing, because I've reached artists from all over the world. And otherwise I wouldn't have been able to know about them. And I mean, here you and I, we're talking, and this was through connecting with Anna. And, so I think that it has its value. It's just like you say, we have to find that balance and use it in a positive way. So, but Laura, tell me, what are the wishes for you? What is the dream?
Wow. I have so many dreams, but I mean, first of all, I would love to have peace in the world, and more empathic leaders with analytic minds in the world, all over the world, and not connection with humanity should be something that we should cherish and build. That's my biggest dream. But then on personal level, I would love to challenge people more to be connected to themselves, and provoke them positively to think about the possibilities that they have right now.
Yeah.
Whether they are working in the creative field or in business, or they are entrepreneurs, or they are retired, or they are students. There are so many possibilities in life. I mean, when I wake up in the morning, I always see a new day as a possibility for something great to happen. And of course, there's challenges, and there's children who don't dress up and go to kindergarten when I want them to. Yeah, but and there could be a snowstorm or whatever. But I see a world as a huge possibility, and these endless possibilities, and actually, like, to connect with others and to listen to others. That it's not your story always, even though that I say that stories by people are important, but do you really listen to other people? I mean, It's really important to understand also that that the world is not fair always. There's a lot of challenges and problems that we cannot solve, like on the individual level. But how could we help when we have the resources to help? What could we do then?
Exactly.
So, I have many scattered dreams about like the endless possibilities. And then also like I'm trying to find balance, like how to like manage my own business better in the future, so that it would be heard and seen and connected with the right people all over the world, because I would love to have more international speakers as well, and international events and collaboration and all this, because that's really my passion, since I have worked with many international projects and many international people. I think it's really the core. Like I love people, and I love working with everyone, like wherever they are from. So that's my
true.
thing.
And it brings different perspectives from all over the world. This is that would be great.
Yeah, I mean, for Finnish people, forest is something where we connect, and our pulse goes lower and our blood pressure goes lower and all this. But I think also, like when I work with like people from different backgrounds and different cultures and all this, that's also something that I connect very strongly with, that we come with all this knowledge and all these different environments and situations, and that's kind of like rooting me, and it's so amazing, like when you go to a different culture and you see all this, like how things are there, and then you can reflect your own like environment as well and all this. So I have two places, like international scene and forest, so it's all that and between. Yeah.
But this is wonderful, and I when I read about what you do, I just thought this is so important, and I've always
thank you.
Yeah, no, I've always since I've been listening to artists speak, and it's been life-changing for me. It's been changed how I look at many things in my life, and I think it's so important that you have this platform where you can actually have speakers talk to other people and sort of inspire and also make a change in how they see things and how they see the world.
Yep. So, like opening a window and getting fresh air and new thoughts from different world.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But Laura, have a lovely day. Thank you so much for your wonderful, inspirational story.
Yeah, thanks. This was really interesting and very inspiring for myself as well. Thank you for your stories and questions. It was really good discussion.
It's a great pleasure.